The city never sleeps, but tonight Paris holds its breath. Somewhere between the glowing street lamps and the quiet ripples of the Seine, a love story is waiting to unfold. A story of hearts that have wandered too far, yet still find their way back to one another. The camera drifts across the Paris skyline at twilight. The Eiffel Tower stands in the distance, its lights beginning to shimmer like scattered stars. The streets below are alive but soft, filled with the sounds of footsteps, bicycle bells, and the faint hum of café conversations. This is not just Paris, it is the stage of something timeless, where every corner hides a memory and every shadow carries an unspoken truth. A faceless figure appears, their steps slow and uncertain, as if every stride pulls them deeper into the weight of their own emotions. Their coat sways in the evening wind and the camera lingers on their hands, restless, searching, gripping a folded letter. The letter has been read too many times, the edges frayed, the words smudged from touch. Yet it is still clutched tightly, as though it carries the last fragments of hope. The scene shifts to a narrow alleyway lined with lanterns glowing faintly against the old stone walls. The faceless figure pauses beneath one, breathing heavily before looking up at a balcony where laughter drifts down into the night. Their shadow stretches across the cobblestones, long and lonely, a mirror of what lies inside. There is longing here, unspoken yet sharp, the kind that weighs on the chest until breathing feels like a choice. Cut to another figure, across the river. The camera does not reveal their face either, only the tilt of their head, the way they lean against the railing as if lost in thought. They hold no letter, only silence, but their body tells the same story. A heart caught between moving forward and turning back. The Seine flows below them, reflecting the streetlights like scattered jewels, carrying whispers of the city's countless untold romances. The music deepens, strings swelling as the two figures walk separately, unknowingly moving in patterns that trace toward each other. One crossing a bridge, the other turning down a street, their paths weaving like invisible threads. The narrator's voice cuts through the soundscape. In Paris, love is not always spoken. Sometimes it is a pause, a glance, a step closer or a step away. The faceless figures nearly cross at a cafe corner. The first figure steps inside, brushing past the scent of coffee and wine. The second lingers outside, just a heartbeat late, their shadow falling on the door before they turn away. The city keeps its secret, at least for now. The camera lifts once more to the Parisian night, lights glittering like promises waiting to be kept. The narrator whispers, "They are here, both waiting, both searching." But Paris has its own rhythm, and tonight the rhythm has only begun. The night folds deeper over Paris and the streets begin to empty. The laughter from the cafés fades into echoes, leaving only the faint sound of rain touching the rooftops. The camera pulls in close to the Seine, where the water swirls in slow circles, carrying the reflections of street lamps like broken pieces of a dream. From this stillness, the story takes a sharper turn. One figure sits alone at a table tucked away in the farthest corner of a cafe. The glass in front of them remains untouched, the candle at the table flickering as though fighting to stay alive. The light draws out details, the glint of a silver ring still worn, the shadow of a hand trembling when it lifts the letter once again. No words are read aloud, but the silence is louder than any voice. The camera holds on the way the figure closes their eyes, almost as if remembering a face the audience will never see. Across the river, the other figure wanders into a bookshop still open at this late hour. The aisles are dim, stacked high with stories that whisper from the shelves. They pause at a book of poetry, brushing fingers over the pages, stopping at a line that speaks of longing. Though the words are blurred to the viewer, the emotion is not. A deep breath escapes them, and for a moment the weight of their solitude presses down like stone. They set the book back without purchase, yet the line has etched itself into their memory, echoing louder than the sound of the closing door. The rain grows heavier, becoming a rhythm that beats through the city, drawing the figures closer in spirit though still apart in space. The first figure finally leaves the cafe, stepping into the storm without an umbrella. Drops scatter across the letter, ink bleeding further into unreadable stains. The narrator's voice returns, soft and deliberate. Love does not always vanish when words fade. Sometimes it survives in silence, carried by the heart even when the page cannot hold it anymore. The second figure, meanwhile, walks with hurried steps beneath an awning, stopping suddenly as if sensing something, a shift in the air, an invisible thread tugging at them. Their head turns toward the direction of the bridge. The camera lingers on their posture, still searching, resisting the instinct to move forward. It is hesitation made visible, a moment balanced between surrender and courage. Both figures now move through Paris in the rain, the city itself becoming their companion. Streetlights blur in the downpour. The river glimmers with restless energy and the cobblestones shine with reflections of the past. Neither figure knows the other is near, yet each carries a pull toward something more, something waiting just out of sight. The sequence ends with a wide shot of the bridge glowing in the storm, empty for now, yet heavy with promise. The narrator whispers, "Paris keeps secrets, but it also keeps promises." And in the quiet of the night, two hearts are still walking toward the same truth. The storm begins to ease, as though Paris itself has exhaled. The rain softens into a mist that clings to the stones, leaving the streets slick with reflections of lanterns and passing carriages. The bridge, once empty, now waits, its golden lamp stretching out like a pathway of hope across the water. The Seine moves quietly, pulling away the storm, carrying secrets downstream. The first figure arrives at the far end of the bridge. Their steps are slow, weighted by uncertainty, but each one feels drawn by something unseen. The soaked letter is gone now, slipped from their hand, taken by the rain, surrendered to the river. All that remains is the hollow space it leaves behind. Their hand lingers over the railing, fingertips tracing the damp metal as if to hold on to something solid in the blur of their emotions. On the opposite side, the second figure pauses at the entrance of the bridge. They lift their gaze, and though no face is shown, the tilt of the head and the stillness of their body suggest a heart wrestling with both fear and longing. The city around them hums faintly, but here on this bridge, time feels suspended. The lamps flicker. The river sighs, and between them stretches the fragile possibility of reunion. The camera closes in on details. The glimmer of a watch catching the lamplight, the slight tremor of breath in the cool air, the reflection of both figures mirrored faintly in the wet cobblestones. They walk slowly, each step narrowing the distance. Neither speaks, but the silence is alive, charged with everything left unsaid, everything that has been carried through the city tonight. For a moment, they stop just a few steps apart. The space between them feels vast, though only inches separate their hands. The world around them falls away. Only the sound of the river remains. The narrator's voice cuts through, tender and restrained. Love often returns without warning, not with grand gestures, but with the quiet courage to take one step closer. The first figure reaches out, not fully, just a motion, as though testing whether the other will mirror it. A pause, a hesitation, then the second figure mirrors back, their hands almost touch, suspended in the space between. It is not a kiss nor an embrace, but something deeper, the ache of recognition, of finding what was once thought lost. A gust of wind brushes past, carrying a few fallen petals from somewhere unseen. The petals scatter across the bridge, drifting between the figures, a delicate reminder of how fragile and fleeting such moments can be. Yet neither turns away. The camera shifts upward to capture the Eiffel Tower glowing brighter now, its light shimmering through the mist. The figures remain in silence, their closeness telling a story no words could hold. The narrator whispers, "Paris does not ask for promises. It asked only for presence. And here in this city of light, two souls have finally remembered how to find each other in the dark." The night deepens, yet Paris feels brighter, as if the city itself has chosen to hold this fragile moment in its hands. The bridge remains hushed, carrying only the whisper of the river below and the soft glow of its lamps. The two figures stand in silence, their closeness filled with words unsaid, a dialogue made of breath and hesitation. The camera tilts down to their shadows, stretching long across the cobblestones. Their outlines blend at the edges, forming shapes that seem whole, even if the people themselves have not yet spoken. A carriage rolls by at the far end of the bridge, its wheels echoing like a distant drumbeat, but neither figure moves. They are locked in a space that belongs to them alone. One figure finally lowers their hand, not in defeat but in surrender, to the moment, to the vulnerability it demands. The other responds not with words but with a step forward, the smallest step, enough to close the remaining space. They do not embrace. Instead, their shoulders brush lightly, and it is enough to feel the weight of longing dissolve, enough to remind them that connection can exist without certainty. The camera follows as they begin to walk together across the bridge, side by side. Their steps are slow, unhurried, as if they know this path matters more than the destination. The river glitters beneath them, carrying the last of the storm away, and the city hums with quiet approval. The narrator's voice enters, soft yet firm. Not every story ends in forever. Some end in this, the courage to stand together even when tomorrow is unknown. They reach the end of the bridge where the streets split into two different directions. A single street lamp flickers, casting their silhouettes across the stones once more. Here they pause. The choice is clear, to part or to continue together. The silence grows heavier but not painful. It feels sacred, like the final page of a book waiting for the last line to be written. One figure turns slightly, as if preparing to walk away, but the other gently touches their sleeve. Just that, a touch. It is neither a plea nor a demand, but an offering. For a breathless moment, both remain still, caught between the weight of their past and the possibility of what lies ahead. The camera pulls wide, revealing Paris in full, the glowing tower, the river winding endlessly, the streets alive with lights. The figures, now just silhouettes, remain at the crossroads. The narrator delivers the closing line. Love in Paris is not about endings. It is about remembering that even in silence, even in shadows, two hearts can speak louder than the city itself. The screen fades to black, the music lingering, a slow, aching melody that refuses to fully resolve. Just as the story refuses to close, a title card appears. Downton Abbey 3, a journey of romance and emotion in Paris. And then, nothing but silence. The silence after the fade does not last long. Slowly, a soft hum of morning begins to rise. Paris at dawn. The sky is washed in pale lavender and faint gold. The storm of the night now only a memory carried away by the river. The city breathes again, and with it comes a new rhythm. The figures remain faceless, but their presence lingers. One is seen sitting at a cafe table near the Seine, a cup of coffee steaming in front of them. Their hands rest quietly on the wood, no longer trembling, no longer clutching the faded letter that once weighed them down. The world feels lighter now, though the air still holds traces of unspoken emotion. Behind them, the city stirs. Bakers open shutters, children hurry with books, bicycles weave through the cobblestones. Paris moves forward as it always does. Across the river, the other figure stands on a balcony looking outward. Their posture is different now, not heavy but still thoughtful. They lean forward slightly, their silhouette cut against the rising sun. The camera does not show their face, only the way the light brushes against their shoulders. It is not a picture of certainty but of acceptance. Something has shifted. Whether it is reconciliation or parting, the audience cannot know. What matters is that both hearts are no longer carrying their solitude in silence. The narrator returns, softer now, almost like a whisper carried on the morning breeze. Love is not always about the grand endings. Sometimes it is the quiet understanding that the story continues, even if the pages turn in different books. The two figures are shown walking again, but now in different streets among different crowds. Yet the camera frames them in similar ways. The rhythm of their steps, the pause of their hands against the stone walls, the tilt of their heads toward the sky. Their journeys are separate, but their echoes remain connected. The city itself seems to recognize this bond. Bells ring faintly in the distance. A violinist plays near the square, and pigeons take flight over the rooftops. As the music swells, the scene shifts to a final wide shot of Paris in full daylight. The Seine gleams like liquid silver. Boats drift slowly across, and the Eiffel Tower stands tall against the morning haze. The narrator speaks the closing words. In Paris, love does not end. It transforms. It lingers in the streets, in the shadows, in the echoes of those who dared to feel. And somewhere beneath this endless sky, two souls will always remember what it means to have found each other, even if only for a moment. The music softens into a single piano note that fades into silence. The screen turns black and the final card appears, the end, or perhaps only the beginning. The screen stays black for a moment after the words fade. Then, unexpectedly, sound returns. Not music, not narration, but the faint toll of a distant church bell. A new scene opens. Paris is no longer storm-washed or sunlit, but resting in the golden haze of late afternoon. The city glows, alive with warmth, the kind of light that softens everything it touches. The camera drifts into a crowded square where life moves easily. Children chasing pigeons, lovers sharing quiet laughter on benches, artists painting canvases that blur with color. Yet among all these faces, two shadows pass briefly across the same space. They do not stop, they do not speak. One figure steps into the frame from the left, the other from the right. For a breathless instant they are there together, close enough to touch, yet the current of the crowd carries them apart again. The camera does not chase them. Instead, it lingers on what is left behind. A single rose dropped onto the stones, perhaps from one, perhaps from the other. It is impossible to tell. The rose lies still, but its presence tells a story. That even in passing, something remains. The narrator's voice emerges again, but softer, more reflective, almost as if confiding in the audience alone. Sometimes love is not about holding on. Sometimes it is about knowing that what was shared lives beyond the moment itself. That even in distance, even in silence, it continues to breathe. The camera shifts to the rooftops. Both figures reappear in different parts of the city. One walking along a riverside path, the other pausing at a bookstall where worn pages flutter in the breeze. They are faceless yet familiar, each carrying the weight of memory differently. Neither searches, neither chases, yet the sense of connection does not fade. Instead, it transforms into something unseen but undeniable, woven into the rhythm of the city itself. As evening falls, the Eiffel Tower begins to sparkle once more, its lights scattering across the skyline. The figures are not shown together again, but the audience knows they walk beneath the same sky, breathe the same air, and carry the same memory. The final words arrive almost like a sigh, gentle but resonant. Paris does not promise forever. It promises a heartbeat, a moment that becomes eternal in the soul. And when two hearts have touched even for a night, the city remembers. The screen dims slowly, the sounds of Paris fading into the distance. A violin plays a single lingering note before vanishing into silence. The title appears one last time, not as a declaration but as a whisper across the dark screen. Downton Abbey 3, a journey of romance and emotion in Paris. The story circles back to where it began, not with the chaos of storm or the stillness of night, but with Paris itself, alive and eternal. The city is shown in fragments, the river flowing calmly under bridges, lanterns flickering on as twilight deepens, the laughter of strangers spilling from a café door. Life continues as it always does, but somewhere within it remains the quiet echo of two faceless souls who once shared a bridge. A silence, a moment too fragile to name. The camera drifts into a quiet street lined with golden lights. A window opens and curtains stir with the evening breeze. A figure sits at a desk writing. Not a letter this time, but something new, words meant not for sending but for keeping. Their hand moves steadily, no longer trembling, as if they have found peace in expression even if no one will ever read it. The scene lingers on the ink flowing across paper, a reminder that stories live on when they are written, even if unfinished. Across the city, the other figure is seen in a garden just as the lamps flicker on. They pause to watch the glow spread through the trees, the air filled with the fragrance of blossoms carried on the night wind. They place their hand over their chest, not in sadness but in quiet remembrance, a gesture of carrying something precious forward. For a moment, their posture softens, their shoulders relax, and the weight of solitude becomes something gentler, something survivable. The narration begins again, its tone final yet tender. Every love story leaves a trace. Some linger like shadows in the night, some vanish like rain on stone. But the rarest kind, the kind born in a single city in a single night, remains eternal. Not because it lasts forever, but because it teaches us what it means to feel. The camera slowly pulls higher, rising above the rooftops, showing the full expanse of Paris beneath a violet sky. The lights of the city flicker like constellations, each one carrying its own story, its own secret. Somewhere among them, two souls move on with their separate journeys, yet bound forever by a single,